Hi ladies, last month the Bernina Club, believe it or not, Christmas has come upon us fast, and I'm just showing you a couple of little ideas you can do for Christmas, maybe this year or maybe next year. So every year I make the Christmas crackers for the family, and every year we just throw away all the paper, throw away the crackers, everything gets in the rubbish, and it is really a waste. So every year you've got to buy new paper and all of that sort of thing. So I've decided to do recyclable Christmas crackers this year, and what I've done is I've just used a cotton homespun fabric. I've done some beautiful stitches on my Bernina, and I've got some pretty lace that we sell at work, some pretty ribbon, and inside my cracker is a fabric roll that's been cut. We have these if you want to come and get them for free, and you can just cut them to size, and these can be reused every year, so it's kind of handy, really good. So the first thing I did was I got some homespun, and I've decided to make a whole lot of white ones first, and so what I did was I've got white homespun. And how did I work out my size? Well, I decided on how much room I needed to put my inner goodies in there, so that's my size that I've used, and it's on your notes, the size. And then I got my fabric, and I want my fabric 2.5 inches wider than the finished piece of roll, and that seems to be enough to cover the cracker snap. Then I've marked where my roll starts and ends, and I've also done a second mark. So I've done a central mark, a mark where the roll ends, and then another mark where I'm going to put elastic so that I can have the ends elasticized so that it looks beautiful even when you've pulled the cracker and undone the ribbon. So you just need these markings, because what you're going to do is you're going to do your fancy stitches on your fabric. Now, rather than using interfacing on here, I've used tear away, but I'm going to leave it in. So I'll show you on this piece. I've just ironed, this one I've only lightly ironed. So this is iron on tear away, and I've just fused it onto the back, and normally you would do your stitches and then tear it away, but I'm just leaving it in. If you want to, you can use iron on interfacing. So I just cut a whole strip, and then I just cut them to size for my crackers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch a central row down through the middle here, so I know where I'm doing my stitches. So I decided the easiest foot to use would be foot number 20, and you can see the whole central piece of the foot is cut out, and this is so I can see what my stitching looks like, and then I can decide how far apart I want to have my rows of stitching with my quilting guide. And you've all got one of these in your sewing toolbox, and they just unscrew here, and you can move them in and out to how far apart you want your stitching. So I'll just put it about there. Doesn't really matter where it is, because every single one can be different, won't matter. So that's the foot I'm using, so I'll put my little roll away, and I've decided I want metallic thread. So this is metallic thread. This is by Madeira. I particularly like their thread, and I'm using a metallic needle, and the metallic needle has the eye 3 times the length of a normal needle. Okay, so those are the 2 things you need for your metallic thread. Now, if you've got a big reel like this, rather than lie it down, you can put your extra thread stand up and your reel on there, and you can stand it up this way. So if it's a bigger reel, that's not a bad idea. So I'm going to stand that one up today. In my bobbin, I've got standard metricine, just ordinary white metricine in the bobbin. You don't need to use anything fancy there. Pop that in there, and I don't need to thread the eye of the bobbin case unless my bobbin thread has started to come up and take over my thread here. So I'll just try it and see, and if it does, then I will certainly thread the eye of my bobbin case. But try it first on a scrap piece and just make sure. Now with the eye, that's 3 times the length, and with metallic thread, sometimes the needle threader won't work, so you may need to just thread it by hand. And it's funny, sometimes it does and other times it doesn't, because it's at a different height than a normal needle. Oops. So just thread your needle, and I'm just going to get a scrap. Oh, here we are. Here's one I started that I'm just crisscrossing. So I'm just going to try it out on this one. I'll just bring my bobbin thread up. Because I'm working with metallic thread, I like to bring my bobbin thread up. And I can leave this foot on for the moment because I just want to do a sample one. So I'm just going to stitch on an angle on this one and just try it. So I'll just try out my tension. Now when you're choosing your fancy stitches, you can do any stitches you like with your machine. Some of them will take a little bit longer than others, so be a little bit more patient with the metallic thread. Maybe put your machine on half speed and treat it with a little bit more respect than you would a normal thread. But if you find that it's sewing perfectly on half speed, then you can put the speed up a little bit higher and see how far you can push your machine. But if the thread starts shredding and breaks, then take your speed down a little bit slower, alright? But most machines will go at a good speed, so I'll just sew across this one. And that's sewing fine, so I don't need to worry about my tension. So now I'm going to put on my number 20 foot. Righty-ho, so foot number 20, which is called an open toe embroidery foot. And my little quilting guide, my sewing guide or quilting guide, so I know how far apart to do my rows. That's actually way too far because it's only a little thing that I'm doing. Now, so my first row, I'm going to stick to this particular stitch because it's my favourite. And you've seen me use it before on bag handles. And on a 440, it's number 46. So on your machines, all the numbers are going to be a little bit different. So the first row, I don't use the quilting guide. I just draw a line or use my iometer, and I sew my first row of stitching, lining up my two central lines. So stitch that one down. I love using the fancy stitches on the machines. One of my ladies came in and said that she made a couple of these this week and they were a big hit and she gave them away for gifts. So that's good. And I can't actually help myself. When I'm doing this, I like to do my first row as my main central line, and then the one either side the same, and then the one either side matching, and then the last one matching. So I quite like to have them all like that, but there's nothing stopping you from having a different stitch for each and every row, because you'll fit about 7 rows across the gap if you're about, I don't know, they're 2 centimetres apart or 2.5 roughly. You can judge what you like. Just do them all differently. You don't have to do them the same. I'm using a pre-bought lace that I think is rather pretty, and I'm going to sew that on the edges. So there's my first row. Now for the second row, what you want to do is you want to use your quilting guide and you want to run it along the edge of your first row of stitching or on the other side, whichever way you choose to go, and you're going to watch where that guide goes, not where you're sewing. So I'm going to choose a different stitch, and I'm pretty fussy, so I have to be quick here. So I'm going to go number 54, and this is like a little feather stitch, so it's quite quick. So I'm just going to run that one down. Now, because I want to go do both sides together, and I'm not going to turn my quilting guide over, I'm just going to run it down the other way. And this pattern looks the same both ways, so it'll be fine. So if you see the quilting guide here, I'm watching the quilting guide, not watching my foot sewing, so I know I'm going to get it nice and straight. thread. Now I'm going to choose my next one, and I'm going to use a little flowery stitch because there's some very, very pretty flowery stitches, and I can't help it, I have to use it, the daisy stitch 126. It's so pretty and very pretty with the metallic thread. Now if I'd forgotten to put on this felt here, what can happen, can you see how the metallic thread comes off and goes quite springy? So if I'd forgotten to put on that felt, this thread can very easily get caught in underneath here. So it's really, really important that you do put on that felt, because you can have no end of trouble with metallic thread if you don't. Okay? So you can see I can go full speed with this thread and it's not even an issue. I'm only doing, I'm not doing as many rows because I want to show you how to make the whole thing today. So I'll just whip down this one and put one more at the other end. Now if you chose a pattern that had a mirror, that had a design going one way, on this machine I could push my mirror image button and have the design going the other way. So some of you ladies have that ability. So remember to use it when you're doing jobs like this. It can be quite effective. So you can see how you get nice straight rows. And I'm just going to do one more down here. And we'll see how we're looking. I may need to do another couple by the looks. I haven't quite got enough, but it's looking very pretty. You could get quite carried away and do lots of different colours as well. I've done some red ones, I've done some blue ones, very effective, but I do like the silver and white. I think it's quite Christmassy. I think I might do a scallop on each side of these. I think it might look really nice. Yep, I'm definitely going to do a scallop. That'll be my last one. Now one thing with the scallop is it is a satin stitch design, and so you may need to thread the eye of the bobbin case. So this scallop is designed to go out to the right, and I'm going to mirror image it because I want it to go left. So I'm just going to push my mirror image button and it's going to turn my scallop to the left. Okay? So I want it as my last design. And I made it a little bit closer to the last one, so it'll end up in the right spot. I think these are a lovely thing to do. A very nice gift to give a couple who maybe don't have family and there's just going to be the two of them. But you don't want to make it for a family of 12 because you'll be sewing forever. Unless you make them for your own family, you can have them every year like I'm going to do. But these will stay at my house, they're not allowed to take them home because otherwise they may not come back. Oh, I got a shock. So now I'm going to go my last row down here. And I'm finishing this side off with a scallop. And obviously it's going the right way. And I've completely sewn my fancy stitches. Now when I was doing these, I decided with the lace on the edge, so what I did was I left the metallic thread on and I used a blanket stitch. So I'll show you that next. It's quite effective, quite like it. So I'll put the little blanket stitch on, which is number 50 on this machine. So there you can see the stitches and how they look. I think they're rather beautiful and I love the metallic thread. And honestly, the Madeira metallic thread is so, so good. So now I'm going to put stitch number 50 on. Take the mirror image button off. I'll leave the quilting guide on, but I'm just not going to use it for a minute because I'm going to use it again to show you how to put the elastic on. So I'm leaving the silver thread on. I am going to use my mirror image button. this number 50 stitches down and goes to the left, and I want it to go down and go to the right to sew my ribbon on. So I've got a braid on, sorry. So I've got a really pretty little braid here, and I'm going to sew my blanket stitch on with it. So I'm just going to run it along the edge, my foot along the edge of the braid, and I'm going to sew it on there on both ends. So just put your lace sitting on the top. Just have a, I don't know, 3 or 4 mil allowance underneath. You can see through it. It can be right on the edge. It's not going to fray because you're stitching it on with a blanket stitch. You don't have to go overlocking it as well. Cute little stitch. And then I'm going to do the same to the other end. It's very, very, very hard to tell the right and wrong side of the lace on some of these. But I like this, I picked this one because it's got a little bit of glitter in it. It's rather nice. Which reminds me, I better finish the rest of them because Christmas is looming fast. They're pretty quick and easy to make, aren't they? Really good. So there you've got your designs and your lace on either side. Now where these little blue marks are here, I'm going to sew a clear elastic on. So I'm going to sew that on the inside, so I'm going to turn it to the wrong side. I'll just trim up all these threads here. And I'm going to stitch my elastic. And so I didn't realise, there was a lot of ladies when I was teaching this didn't know about the clear elastic that we sell, so I'm going to show you that. And the stitch I use is the elastic stitch, which looks like, and I'm going to show you this so you can all see it. It is stitch number 24, and it's this one in the corner. Now the reason why you use that stitch number 24 is because it stitches up and goes across and goes down. Now what that means is the points won't weaken because it doesn't have any points. So stitch number 24 is the one I use for elastics. Okay, hopefully you can see that nice and clearly. Yep, cool. So I'm going to take this thread off now, and I'm just going to put a standard metricine on to sew up the rest of it. So I normally sew with these lying down. So I'll put that one down, pop this one on here, pop that on. Actually, that one's a bit loose. There we are. And I'm going to leave the 24 foot on. Now the reason why, the 20 foot on, the reason why the number 20 foot, the width of the foot is perfect for the elastic. And I'm going to show you that. I'll take the foot off and actually show you. Remembering I can't use my needle thread at the moment because of my needle. Works sometimes, but not with the, usually with the invisible thread, so I should have tried it. Right, here is my foot and my, can't see it. My elastic is clear. Can you see that? So when I stretch it, this foot's perfect to sew through. Okay, so that's the elastic that I'm using. Right. Now, I'm putting that foot back on, taking it off mirror image, putting it on the correct stitch, which is 24. Perfect. And the width is about 4 and the length is about 1. I'm going to put the length a little bit higher, up to 1.5, and I'm going to leave the width on 4 because I actually do want to stitch on this. Now sometimes I use 3mm ribbon or elastic, and I do the same stitch, but afterwards I can pull it up. But this one I'm just going to stitch straight on. So I'm going to, I can see my marks through here and here. So I'm going to line up my elastic, and I'm going to start sewing on the elastic on the wrong side of my work. So I'm on the iron-on tearaway side, and I'm going to put my needle stop down function on. Now when I do that, my needle's going to stop down in the work every time, And then I'm just going to stretch my elastic. I can't really tell you how much to stretch it because you're all going to have different size rolls. But I'll tell you what mine finishes at, about 4.5 inches. So I'm stretching it to about 4.5 inches, but every single one of mine will be different. So when you've got the needle down and you've got your threads at the back here, you want to hold onto your threads tightly until it starts, and then you just want to gather it on. So I'm pulling the front of my elastic, I'm leaving the back flat, and I'm just stretching it on gently. It's just so it goes back at the ends when you have already cracked your cracker, snapped your cracker. So now I'm just going to reverse, and then I'm going to cut my thread and my elastic, and then I'm going to do the other end. So is that going to be long enough? Yep, that's going to be long enough. So I'm going to line that up. Needle stop down on. There we are. Okay, oh, don't stretch yet, start sewing. Then hold the threads and then stretch your elastic. It's nice and easy when you've got something to hold on to. Alright, I've just got enough elastic. So I've got elastic both ends, like that. Okay, and I've got all my stitches done. Now I'm just going to tidy up all these edges because I've got stuff everywhere. So I'll just have a little bit of a clean finish. Now if you're using a lace that frays a lot, you want to use a product called Fray Check. Now what Fray Check does is it stops things from fraying through washing and using. So I'm just going to trim all that up, and then see my edges of my lace here. I'm just going to get my Fray Check, which is a clear glue, and I would just do this. You can do this afterwards, but I'm just showing you now so don't forget. You just put a little bit of Fray Check on there, and I do the same to all the ends. Little tiny bit of Fray Check just to stop it fraying. You can't even see it, and it dries clear. It's a wonderful product. So if you're ever worried about things fraying, just use Fray Check. Ladies, it's brilliant for your pantyhose. Alright? So it's a very, very good finish to your pantyhose. Now once you've got that all tidied up, oh look, there's another thread. All tidied up and ready to go, we're ready to finish our cracker. And you can see it's starting to come right. So I think we'll have a little break, because I've been told I have to. And oh, in 2 minutes, oh, I'm getting this. So in 2 minutes we're having a break. So now what you're going to do is you're going to put right side to right side. So you've got your beautiful stitching inside. You're going to get your little ribbon that's going to tie your crackers together. You're going to fold your ribbon in half, and you're going to put your ribbon inside. So there's my pins. So I'm just going to put a pin in here like that, and then I'm going to put the same on the other end, and this is going at my elastic. So you've got a nice something to put as a marker. Brilliant. Now you want to then fold your ribbons in so you don't sew them up, and then you want to just make it like a sandwich, flip it over and line up all your rows of stitching, and then sew right through the middle here. So I'm going to just fix up my ribbon because it's not even, and then I'm going to sew right through the whole length of my cracker, and it's all done. Too easy. So line everything up, grab my grab it, you need a grab it, and then if you're good, I wasn't with my first one, I forgot to line them up and I just sewed it and went, oh, probably should have made a bit more effort there. I'll have that as my one. So all of these are all lined up now, and then put a pin through there and make sure the rest of your ribbon is out of the road. So now I'm going to put it on straight sewing, and I'm just going to sew up through here, and I've allowed about a 1 centimetre seam. Take your pins out as you go, please, ladies. I've had too many people running over pins lately. It's very, very bad for your machine, and I don't think the mechanic really wants to know you've been sewing over pins. Okay, so just sew up here. And the other thing I do, I actually now, once I've done this, I sew the overlock stitch down the side as well on the sewing machine. I don't go to my overlocker if I'm doing it at the sewing machine. I just use the overlock stitch. So now I'm just going to put the overlock stitch on, which is stitch number 3, and just simply do the single overlock down there. Why? Oh, no, I'm not. Yes, I am. Why do you need to go to the overlocker when you've got it on your sewing machine? So there you have it. Nice and easy. They're quite a fun thing to make. There we are. And there is your cracker. Now, I was so clever last time. Oh no, I'm clever again. So we've got to pull it through to the right side. So you just pull one of your ribbons. It's really easy. Stand up and give it a little bit of effort. Start it off and then just give it a pull. There we go. Pull it through to the right side. Now at this stage I would iron it. I haven't got my iron ready today, unfortunately, but give it a nice iron. And you've got your beautiful, beautiful cracker made. And then you just get your very ugly cracker roll, and you just open this out and you fit it in there, and you have made the coolest little Christmas cracker. Then you fill it with your goodies. So it's quite tight because you want it to be nice and tight. So once you fiddle and faddle around it, you can do that. I'll do that while you're having a cup of tea, and then I'll show you how to put your cracker in. All right, so while I fight with it, you ladies go and make a cup of tea, and I'll see you in a minute.